What's up? You're listening and watching the RAPS Talk podcast presented by HipHoopJunkies.com and HoopheadsNorth.com, Hoops Talk out of Halifax, and we also have a sponsor, FanEssentials.net. This is a playoff podcast, post-game, game one. The RAPS game just finished. The Raptors lost 100-90 to the Indiana Pacers in game one. Sean, are you a glass half empty or glass half full kind of fan?
Half full. It's only one game. I'm trying to look at it like that. I'm trying not to, make more out of it than it needs to be, in the sense that wasn't a great start, but there's a lot of things that normally go the Raptors' way and didn't today, right down to the way certain players played. So, Monday and then Thursday in Indiana. So 2 games this week. There'll be 3 because they'll be back again, I guess, on Saturday for a game 4. But 2 games, before the next weekend to get this back in their favor.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like I'm looking at it as a half full, but if you've been a Raptors fan for as long as we've been, and for most fans, you've seen this before, and it's tough. Like, you think this is a different team, and it is a different team.
Yeah,
and we've seen it in the regular season, but when they struggle, and then when your 2 star players, DeRozan and Lowry, struggle offensively, it's tough. I mean, those guys have to lead you to a playoff series win, and they just didn't show up. And I mean, let's bring up the stats here. Let's look. We got Lowry, he had 11 points, 3 of 13, 1 of 7 from 3 in 41 minutes, and DeRozan 5 of 19. He got to the line 6 times, but 0 for 3 from the 3-point land. Just numbers like that. I mean, that's not gonna get at you anywhere when it matters. So, I mean, that's tough to see. Now, JV showed up. He was strong from the start. He had a franchise record 19 rebounds and 12 points in the double-double. He also fouled out late in the fourth quarter, which was
that 6th foul was terrible call by the referees. But you're 100% right. He showed up. He missed some easy shots early on in the game, but stuck with it and did a lot of great things out there. The Raptors, man, and despite the loss, despite DeMar and Kyle not playing well, which obviously is the engine that is going to run this team and has all season long, the Raptors did do some great things. They actually outscored the Pacers 42-26 in the paint, and they actually outscored the Pacers 17-11 in fast break points as well. But when you turn the ball over a total of 20 times compared to the Pacers 13, and what did we say in the last podcast?
Exactly, yeah.
The Pacers are number 1 in scoring points off of turnovers in the NBA. So if you were going to give up 20 turnovers in a game, I mean, you're normally not going to get out of that unscathed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. We were talking about that last podcast.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably one of Coach Casey's game plans as well. But it didn't work out. From the free throw line, the Raptors got there 38 times, 26 and 38, 68%. I mean, and then from the field, 38%. So, with numbers like that, in the playoffs, you're not going to win games. It's disappointing. The Raps fans were there. Jurassic Park was strong.
Oh, yeah.
The sport was there. And, I read that Patrick Patterson article last night in the Players Tribune.
It was great.
I saw somebody, you had it on your, I got the tip from you, but I read it. It was actually pretty good. It got me kind of pumped for the series and Patrick Patterson. But yeah, it just feels so much like every other playoff series we watched the past couple of years. But it's one game.
That's right. We did say Raptors in 6, right? So they were going to have to lose at least 2 games in order for that to happen, right? So or exactly 2 games, I should say, in order for that to happen. So let's hope that this is one of the only 2 losses they have in this series.
Mm-hmm, yeah, for sure. And the guy that did it for Indiana, obviously was Paul George. 33 points, 12 of 22 from the field, 5 of 6 free throws, 4 threes. He was on fire in the second half.
Yeah, 17 points in the third quarter.
Yeah. So, I mean, Coach Casey knows what adjustments he has to make. Whether if that's enough to win a game 2, hopefully. But, I mean, if they stop Paul George, I mean, who's to say that? I mean, another guy on that team. I mean, they got a lot of scorers on that team. Monte Ellis, George Hill. I mean, those guys they could go off. I mean, they got a lot of weapons. So it'd be interesting to see how they come out on Monday night and play. What kind of adjustments do you see for the Raptors?
I just think their defensive rotations. We talked about that too. That things had to be tighter. There just seemed to be too many easy, give and goes and dump ins and shots made around the basket for Indiana without much resistance by Toronto. And then things on the opposite end for Toronto didn't go that smoothly. They had a hard time scoring. So I'm really looking forward to Toronto tightening things up defensively and, really putting some resistance in the paint. Like, obviously, JV did a good job with the rebounding, but it shouldn't all come down to just the man in the middle doing the majority of the work. The perimeter players have to do their part too, to make sure that you're keeping guys off the three-point line and working them into tougher shots. Paul George didn't average 16 points in the regular season in 4 games against the Raptors by accident. They were doing things that worked. So they got to review those game tapes and get back to that. 33 points. That's 10 points above his season average, not just double, what he normally scores against the Raptors. That's 10 points above what he even averaged through the season. So, probably one of his better games of the year, to be honest with you. So the Raptors got to do a much better job on Paul George specifically, and just overall defensive.
Yeah. I mean, Paul George, a lot of comparisons. They were comparing him to Paul Pierce. I mean,
right. Yeah, another Paul.
Pierce, the Raptors. Yeah. Another stat I see here: the Raptors are 0-8 in the first game of an opening round playoff series. So they gotta. I mean, that's tough to see. You would think that.
So you mean in every single series the Raptors have ever been in, they haven't won the first game?
Yeah, just looking at the recap, Toronto dropped to 0-8 in the first game of an opening round playoff series.
They've never won the opening game of a playoff series in the history of the team. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I mean,
what is happening there? Are they too tense? Do they come in just play your game? You just won 56 games, right? 32 at home, 24 on the road. Oh man,
I know, that's what I keep saying.
That's crazy because that stat, it's messed up. It's hard to. Obviously, there's different teams, different eras, different years, but for that franchise to have never won an opening series game, that's alarming to me.
Yeah. That's what they're discussing. So I mean that's tough. I mean for Toronto, I hate it's always seems to be the case, but Toronto from playing from behind, they're never the ones in control, and you got to play your own game and kind of dictate your own game. But that was it was tough to watch. In that second half. Anything to know? Corey Joseph at 18 points.
Yeah, that was another bright spot. That was great.
Yeah. Carroll got in 19 minutes, 6 points. T. Ross, 5 points, 2 for 8. He didn't. We were kind of looking forward to Terrence Ross. Kind of stepping up in the playoffs. Off the bench, but it wasn't today. But we don't want to see another performance in the playoffs where Ross doesn't come out. So hopefully we'll see an improved Terrence Ross in game 2. So. Any other thoughts of the game before we kind of
ultimately the Raptors just have to execute. They need DeMar and Kyle to be efficient from the field. Obviously, Frank Vogel got into the heads of the referees, in his comments prior to the game, the other day in the press. But that said, you can't leave it to the referees. You got to do, there's always going to be calls that are going to go against you, whether you're playing well or not. So you got to handle the stuff you can control. And the Raptors just need to, review the tapes of their success from the regular season, look at today's tape and see how and what they were lacking on, and make, like you said, make those adjustments going into game 2. They really, really need to get this win. And it's like, just take it as the same approach to what they've been doing all season, but they do have to understand the magnitude of the game. Unfortunately for the Raptors, it seems as though in the playoffs, when they get down, there's this added pressure, and they get unraveled. And I'm hoping that we don't see that in game 2, that they can just, play their game and collectively as a group stay together and stay after it. There was, like I said, there were a lot of good things that happened in the game. Just unfortunately, the things that normally go right for the Raptors went wrong. And those were ultimately too much to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going back to that set, the 0-8 in the first game, they got to remember what happened in the last 2 seasons. I mean, they got to put that in, and then like they've got to kind of dig in and like take it to another level in game 2, or else you're going to look at another first round exit. So
and then all the stuff that happened this year is kind of for naught, right? Like the 56 wins, All-Star coming to Toronto, just a renewed energy around the team despite the troubles last year. Like there's so many things that are trending in the right direction for the Raptors, building the fan base, more eyes on the team across the country. There's so many things that are really at stake here. And, if they don't pull out of the first round, it's like, hate to say it, but people will be saying, oh, well, look, told you, same old team, blah, blah, blah. I know they know people will be saying that. And, I've already seen some of it, online already in the past, half hour. So they just got to buckle down and get it done. Game 2, game 3, get that home court advantage back.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll look forward for game 2. And we'll hope for a win. Game 2, what's the time on that one for Monday night? Is it?
Believe it's 7:30. Believe it's a 7:30 tip-off. I'll double check right now just so that we have the time exactly, but I believe that's the case.
Yes.
Let's see.
So Pacers. The 7th seed.
7:30 Eastern. Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry. 7:30 on Thursday. So 7 Eastern for game 2 on Monday in Toronto, and 7:30 Eastern for game 3 in Indiana. And game 4 will be 3 p.m. on Saturday, April 23rd. So that's the setup right now.
Okay, so that works. So we'll catch up again. The next podcast on after Monday. So Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back. That's it. Raptors podcast. We out.